Welcome in, everyone. You're listening to Bull Central. I'm joined with me today by a very special guest who will help try to make sense of this crazy season that we've been witnessing of the Bulls. He's been covering the team for a long time, dating back to Bulls Outsiders, Locked on Bulls podcast, and now covering the Bulls for CHGO. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the show Big Dave of CHGO. Big Dave, how you doing, brother? It's great to have you back on.
Man, peace, bro. Everything's good. Everything's all right. The team is in disarray, but I'm okay.
Well, we'll talk about that. Now, if you're not following Big Dave already, be sure to check him out at Bow Sports. I don't think I can ever do it, as perfectly as Matt Peck does. Don't forget to check out actually his Bow on Bulls podcast as well. I always forget to mention that one. He actually had me on the show one time. So give him a follow. Check out the great work they're doing over at CHGO and Bow on Bull. I'll leave a link to all those in the description. Big Dave, it's
Yes, sir.
been an interesting season. Not the season we expected. I think we can all agree with that.
Okay.
I had you on shortly before the season began. We were talking about predictions, and
Mhm.
neither of us had the Bulls anywhere close to thinking that they would be sitting 11th in the Eastern Conference with just 16 games left to go in the season.
True.
Obviously, they had a great game against the Nuggets the other night, which we can talk about. But a lot of what we talked about at the start of the season and how the Bulls, how their season was going to be defined was on the health of Lonzo Ball and when he would be
Yeah.
returning. Because at that
Yeah.
time, I think in the offseason, we still weren't sure if he was actually going to
Mhm.
start at the beginning of the year. Fast forward to now, obviously missed the whole season. And then to crush Bulls fans even more, we get the news coming out from Adrian Wojnarowski yesterday morning. Talk about the possibility of Lonzo needing yet another surgery on his right knee, the third one since he's been out
Yeah.
since January, and actually I think the fourth overall,
Mm.
which could have about 6 months. That's the rehab process, at least what they initially
Mm.
said. So, Big Dave, I know you're a big Lonzo Ball fan. Are you
Mhm.
worried this could potentially be career ending? And where do the Bulls go from here? And what do they do about this situation?
I mean, I don't think you'd be a normal human being if you weren't worried that this would affect his entire career or if he'll ever play again. Um, I think right now I'm just taking it back to step one. Like, is he comfortable walking? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where I'm kind of at. Like, it's it's more about him as the person right now for me than it is about him playing. So I'm more concerned about just his mental well-being because, like you said, that's his fourth knee surgery, and you go in and they do something to it that you think will help it, and you're still experiencing the same problems over and over and over again. That has to wear on you mentally. Mentally as a human being, that has to really mess with you. And so now going in for your fourth, and I'm assuming this will be it. I don't see him going for a fifth, and I pray that he doesn't need a fifth or anything like that. But if you can't figure it out by then and it's still pain, then we're talking, end of career, kind of situations and things, man. But I don't want them going in treating his knee as like a 57 Chevy. You just pop in the hood, rooting around in there, seeing what's wrong. Like,
Right.
no, like you shouldn't do that. Like, I hope they know what they're doing before they
Yeah.
go in there and examine his knee. I've heard about there's still debris, in the nerves,
Right.
and that could be causing the issue and things like that. And again, I'm like, well, why couldn't we see that the first time or the second time or the third time? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm just concerned about that. But yeah, I'm definitely concerned about him playing again because we haven't seen anything like this. Even with Derrick Rose,
Yeah.
of course, we hadn't seen anything like that either. But with his, it was there's the injury, comes back, then there's another injury.
Mhm.
But he still was able to come back and continue his career, 14 years in. Like he's still, having a career. Lonzo, it's like I've never seen nothing like this. Like
Yeah.
you get hurt and it didn't even look catastrophic, when we first saw it and the injury happened. I believe it was against the Warriors.
Mhm.
When the injury happened, we just thought, somebody walk off. And then, the information we were getting, oh yeah, we'll see what he is. And then the front office is basically letting us know that they're like us. They didn't know because AK was still plotting on getting him back for a playoff run. You know
Right.
what I mean? So they clearly didn't know what was
Mhm.
going on with him. So it's tough, man. It's tough news. And you just want him to be better, just step one as a person, and then step two as a player. So right now I'm at the person phase right now. hoping this surgery does it and he's able to walk and his quality of life is good. And then after that, I'll worry about basketball and see how the rehab goes for, like they said, the next 6 months, which is a lot. It's a lot of time to not play basketball and then to rehab it and then try to get back to the level that you were.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen in 6 months, man. Like that's going to be a longer process to get back to that point. So again, it puts him in a terrible position and definitely puts the Bulls in a tough position.
Yeah, I mean, I think Casey Johnson was saying on the Bulls Talk podcast the other day how timelines really mean nothing when it comes to Lonzo Ball. And that's not a knock on Lonzo Ball specifically. It's just that every timeline that they've been able to give to him for all of these surgeries have always just been, blown well past that. And that's kind of my thing, right? Even you're talking about 6 months, let's say 6 months from now, well, obviously he hasn't had the surgery, but let's say he gets the surgery in like a week or so. In an ideal world, everything goes right. I mean, you're talking about start of training camp, maybe even into the preseason. There's going to be a ramp up period, right? For just general conditioning. He's obviously going to be on minutes restriction. So that sets the Bulls back. I mean, that's kind of where we thought we were going to be this season, right? It's like, okay, well, Lonzo will probably be back to start the season, but he's probably going to be on, some sort of load management. There's going to be a workup period. Now we're talking about next season. It's crazy to me. Kind of related to that topic, Lonzo Ball. I talked about this in a recent video of mine. Given the news that we just obviously heard regarding Lonzo, you'd have to think there's a likelihood that he may miss the start of next season. I'm not saying he's going to miss all of next season, but he may miss the start of next season. The Bulls have to make a decision on Coby White. He's set to become a restricted free agent. I've said before, I'm surprised Coby wasn't moved at the deadline because you're in a situation where if a team offers him a pretty hefty contract and you can't afford to match, especially with all the other free agents they've got to think about signing, then you might lose him for nothing. But how do you think the Bulls will handle Coby's free agency going into the offseason, especially now based on this news regarding Lonzo?
That's one of the top, I'd say, 3 questions for the Bulls in the offseason. It's basically Ayo or Coby.
Yeah.
Like that's the decision that has to be made. And you're not going to like it either way. Like either way, you're not going to be happy. And Coby has been so interesting because if you just looked at his numbers, he's like, is he having a good season? And if you're watching the game, you're like, he's having an incredible season. Yeah. And you're like, yeah. And I've really enjoyed him. And you know me, I've been championing Coby's defense for a long time. Even more people started, seeing it, like you could see it. You could see it growing and getting better. And I just like who he's becoming as a basketball player because I think when you're a shooter and a scorer, that stuff's going to come back at some point in time because this is who you are. You know what I mean? Like, so you go through your slump, you go through a year slump if you want to, but you're still a shooter and that's going to come back at some point in time. I think of guys like Joe Harris like that, he got injured, he wasn't hitting everything, but then he got comfortable and then, threes go in? Really? Yeah, that's a thing. I don't know what they're going to decide or what they're going to do with him. Part of me feels, and I'm just speculating, that they'll hang on to him because of the time that's been put in on him. And it's been a lot of time put in on Coby. Even when they got rid of all the other guys, they held on to Coby.
Yeah.
That was the one they held on to. So I feel like they're going to have to make a tough decision either way with him or Ayo because I like them both a lot. But with Coby, man, like his is an interesting thing because he's better offensively. He hasn't, even though, his shots haven't been, so consistent this season, he's better offensively than Ayo. And defensively, he's improving to get to Ayo's level.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like he's getting there, right there where he is that dependent where he can one-on-one guard, you know what I'm saying, the ball handler and use his size, and move his feet. And it's just been great watching him do that, do those things. His IQ got better too. Like he's thinking much more clearer on the floor. So I think if you're going to put in that time on him, they will go ahead and reward him for that time. It's like, what I equated to this girl I used to date, right? She used to tell me she didn't want to let go of guys because, or like build them up or help them, become better because she didn't want them to break up. And then he goes to the next girl and then, oh my God, he's just an awesome human being. You know what I mean? She's like, I put in all that time and all that thing. And, then you go to the next one and
Yeah.
they're better. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want that. That's kind of like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, do you want to put
Sure.
in that time and effort on this player and then let him go and then he thrives somewhere else? Or do you want to take a flyer on the young guy who you drafted, who came in starting from, I mean, I shouldn't say starting, contributing from day
Yeah.
one of his career, came
Yeah.
in contributing, got better, that has had a tough second season, but it's shown flashes and
Hmm.
things like that. Do you want to build on that? So it's a tough decision either way, man. So I don't know, but they might want to hang on to Coby just for that time thing, I think.
They're kind of like Lowry Marketing,
Kind of
right?
like Low.
Uh,
Listen, Lowry, Wendell, you can throw in. If you some people throwing in Cameron Payne if they want to. Like, even though
campaign.
I wouldn't, you know what I mean? That was just
Right.
a miracle, that happened. But and looking at, man, play even funnier with you. Like, look at Chris Dunn, what I'm saying, him being better, at
Right.
basketball and changing his shot, and his IQ is a little bit better and things
Right.
like that. And maybe he's just a little more comfortable too. So, but Lowry is definitely the biggest one,
Yeah.
because you put in all that time and then you let him go. And now he's one of the best in the league this year. So, yeah, they don't want that to happen again, I'm sure.
So if you had to choose between Io and Kobe, who are you taking?
Uh,
I know it's a hard one.
it's so hard. And you know what? I think I'll have a decision in the off season. It's really
Okay.
hard. And I'm being honest. Like,
No, no, I hear you.
I really think I'll have that decision in the off season, man, because
Yeah.
they both have compelling cases. I just laid out Kobe's.
Right.
Like, he has a compelling case, but Io, like I said, he walked in as a contributor from the first day. I saw him actually win games. I remember that Boston game where that was his game. He didn't miss
Yeah.
a shot. He had 18 that game. He didn't miss
Right.
a shot. Boston had a team meeting after that, game, man. They couldn't believe it, but
Yeah.
he has so many uh highlights in my head. He had a game winner against Atlanta.
Hmm.
The steal by DeRozan and going in for the dunk on Giannis.
Hmm.
Like, he's just been really important, and now coming off the bench, you know, finding himself a little bit better. On that tip, him and Kobe playing well off each other. It's like they've reversed roles, kind of. Like, Io has
Right.
become more of the slasher, getting to the bucket scorer, and Kobe is the one, kind of setting the offense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Getting everybody in position and things like that. So it's so tough because you're like, you see how good Io can be. He belongs in this league, and you're like, man, you just get a shot. You can write your ticket. Right about
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
yeah, man, it's a tough decision. I definitely will have an answer in the off season for you, man. But
All
I
right.
don't envy the Bulls. I
I'll
promise you.
hold you to that. For me, yeah, it's
Thank you.
hard for me to make a choice between those two either. I think at the end of the day, if the Bulls do choose, I have a feeling it's going to be Io. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason I say that is because he's likely going to be a little bit cheaper. Um, I
True.
do think that there is going to be some team that might overpay for Kobe. I'm not saying they're going to
Okay.
get like a max contract or anything like that, but he's a shooter, and
Yeah.
shooters get paid in this league, whether you're inconsistent or not. And I
Mm-hmm.
think also the fact that he's young, he's improved a lot of aspects of his game, and just kind of knowing how cheap this franchise can be sometimes. Also, the fact
Fair.
that he's a Chicago native, so it makes for good headlines and things like that. That's just my personal opinion. Also, because he's a draft pick from the new front office, whereas Kobe is his guard packs. But that's just my
Excellent
take. I mean,
points.
they could keep both. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe they don't re-sign Nikola Vucevic, and then they got to figure out what they're going to do in the front court.
Right.
But if they don't sign Nikola Vucevic, then yeah, they can afford both most likely. But
Right. Right.
we'll see.
We'll
I did
see.
want to talk about some positives though, because I feel like whenever I have guests on now, we're always just talking, venting about how this season has transpired for the Bulls. But
Okay.
more recently, we've been seeing some great performances by Zach Lavine. Patrick Williams as well has finally started showing more confidence and aggressiveness in his play. You especially saw that the other night against Denver. If these guys are going to be able to keep up this level of play, do you think there is a chance where they could actually make a run in getting to the playoffs and maybe giving one of the top seeds some trouble, especially considering the Bulls have actually shown up well against the league's elite? Or am I just being a little too optimistic on that?
I'm not going to say you're being too optimistic at all. Not at all. Anything can happen at this point in time with this team if you give them some trouble. Because I would say you're being too optimistic if you say beat one of those top teams. Then I'll be
Yeah,
like, slow down.
yeah.
I'll be like, come on now. Yeah, man, it's possible. Sure, it's definitely possible that that could happen because stuff's been clicking, for those two guys for sure. Let's go with Zach. Zach is one guy I was ready to trade. You know what I mean? At the trade deadline, when I heard that package with the Knicks that came out, I was like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
give me that. I'll take that
yeah,
right now. Yep, deal." And because you saw how he was playing, he
yeah.
didn't. He looked uninterested. He was just lackadaisical. The
Mm-hmm.
turnovers, the
Yep.
bad moves, the burst, the cuts, they weren't there. He wasn't shooting the threes. You're one of the best catch and shoot 3-point shooters in the league, and he refused to do it. And or I don't know if he refused to do it or plays were refused to being called for that. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't happening at that consistent level that we wanted it to. So I was like, yeah, go cool, go get you a fresh start. Let's do it. I'm glad he hurt me because man, as soon as that happened, and it completely changed from game one. Like
Yeah.
he has been absolutely vicious. He's adopting a mid range.
Mm-hmm.
He put that into his game. So he's not going to the bucket consistently all the time. He's saving wear and tear on himself by hitting the open shot because he's a pure shooter. He really is. But now he's combining that with going to the bucket, and getting there using his speed and not thinking so much when he's making those moves. It
Right.
felt like you can see him thinking. Maybe he was thinking about his injury. Maybe he was thinking he wasn't getting fouled. So he needs to try to sell it a different kind of way. I don't know, but it never turned out good.
Yeah.
Now, when he does those moves, he just does them. You know what I mean? It's no thought to it. He's not worried so much about the foul call. He's just going out there and he's making that move and he's doing it. And it looks phenomenal. And it looks just absolutely phenomenal. That Denver game was awesome because one, I'm sure it was different because his family was there, but that was like
Yeah.
the most vocal Zach Lavine I had seen, and I don't know how long. Like he was
Mm-hmm.
talking plenty trash,
Mm-hmm.
out there when he was making these moves. Maybe Aaron Gordon too. Somebody mentioned that to me. Aaron Gordon being there probably
Right.
had something to do with that as well.
Right.
Like an in-game dunk. When's the last time you see one incredible in-game dunk? Like the first
Mm-hmm.
last one I remember was the Lonzo one.
Yeah.
With the 360. So,
Yeah.
and this is Zach Lavine we talking about. Like, there
Mm-hmm.
should be multiple in-game dunks. Whatever. He has been absolutely phenomenal and the best player on this team. He has taken that reign for the Bulls, and it fits him and it's sitting on him really well. He's wearing it very, very well, and he's getting to the free throw line much more. So refs are giving him more calls now. I I said this. I talked about this on CHGO. How Zach Lavine had back-to-back games of double-digit free throws after that
Mm-hmm.
All-Star break. The last time that happened was 2019 in
Crazy.
December of
Back in
2019.
the Jim Boylan days. Or I'm sorry,
Right. You know
we
what I'm
don't
saying?
you don't call him Jim Boylan, right? Ball headed menace. Yeah.
Ball-headed menace, sir. Ball-headed menace. All right.
Yeah.
This was the ball-head menace days. You know what I'm saying? Where he had back-to-back. He's never had 3 straight games of that,
Right.
of double-digit free. Never occurred. He's only had back-to-back games of double-digit free throws 3 times in his career. 3.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's completely insane.
Yeah.
So to see that happening also is good. That's a good thing. That means he's getting those calls. He's making those moves. He looks great. I have no problems with Zach Lavine. He looks really good. And the turnovers are lower too. And he looks great. I could credit Patrick Beverly with this stuff too. He told him start shooting, stop passing. That's what he's doing. He's only having like 2
Yeah.
assists right now. Patrick Williams, he feels comfortable. You
Yeah.
know, I've said this to you also that there are certain players who play better when they just have that comfort. Larry Markkinen is a great example. When you're in that comfort and you're in a comfortable place, you're a little more freer. You're not thinking as much. You're just reacting. And Pat Williams is definitely a thinker. You can see it out there.
Mm.
You don't blow dunks by hitting the front of the rim when you're 6'7"
Yeah.
by not thinking. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You know what I'm saying? That's a guy counting the steps. 1, 2, is there somebody behind me? Okay, if I go up with this hand, maybe I should switch it. No, I think I'll go up. And by the time
Yeah.
you're thinking and finish that, clang. So watching him now, and again, especially that Denver game, that he looked awesome. Like on both ends of the
Yeah.
floor. He looks super formidable. And he has such a tool of scoring in a variety of ways. And that's why I like watching his game so much. No move is the same.
Yeah.
It's all different. Baseline jam, mid-range pull up, post up, turn around, cash,
Yeah.
3-point shot, getting to the free throw line. Like it's so many a variety of ways of scoring for him. You just want him to pull it out. So you're seeing him start to do that. And I credit Billy Donovan too with this. And I know Billy Donovan's been a hot button topic for a lot of people, but I credit him with helping Patrick Williams with this, man, because he's taking stuff off of his plate. He's simplifying the game for him. He's like, no, dude, catch, pass, shoot. That's what you're doing. You know, that's what you do when you get out there. That's all neat. And get you some rebounds while you're at it. So you're just seeing him thinking on the simplest of levels, which is great. He's not overthinking it. He's just out there doing it and reacting to it. And that's all I need him to do, was just react to it and go out there and make the move. You see the play, do the play, you know? And again, I'll give Patrick Beverly love on that too, because he's in his grill all the time, talking to him. So yeah, it's not a coincidence that when he starts playing better and when Zach Lavine gets on that level, that the Bulls start looking like a team that can actually do something. It's not a coincidence.
Let's talk about Zach Lavine a little more, because you were kind of touching on a topic that I wanted to discuss where, there was this frustration, right, among Bulls fans, not all Bulls fans, but some Bulls fans, right, that, hey, you gave this guy a max contract. He hasn't shown up like a max player, and he hasn't really contributed to winning with his, sometimes poor decision-making, poor shot selection, but not the most clutch player, if you will. I mean, there was a period for a bit where fans wanted Zach traded, like you mentioned, it does appear that sentiment has shifted now with the way Zach has been playing, but you can't help but remember those rumors, right? Of that deal with the Knicks. Now, whether or not those rumors are true, that's we won't know. You might have a better understanding, right? Because you got Will Gottlieb, who's on the beat. He might have a little more insight into that. But do you think that, because there was in the press conference after the trade deadline, how AK was saying, yeah, some of these trades that we were discussing, which obviously none came to fruition, those will probably be readdressed in the offseason. Do you think it's possible? Say the Bulls miss the play-in, or they make the play-in, but they don't make the playoffs. Right now it feels good, right? Because they had such a good game against Denver. But let's say they lose to the Rockets tomorrow, and things go right back to where they were. I mean, do you think it's possible the front office could still look to move Zach, because you probably could get pretty decent value from him?
Yeah, I mean, I think you wouldn't be doing your job as a general manager if you didn't look at every option and do every single thing. So yeah, you look at it, you see what's available and what's out there. You gauge how Zach is feeling. How do you really want to be here? Because I'm not completely sure. That's why I'm just saying, these are rumors, but the rumors that he and Billy Donovan don't really mesh. And knowing that he signed that contract and Billy Donovan got an extension, both of them are in. You know what I'm saying? Both of them are locked into something. So we'll see how that works, and how that goes, if that's true. I have no idea if it is or not. It's just what's been said in this wild season right here. But I'm not going to rule out the possibility of that happening, because I think teams will be calling, teams will be checking on them and seeing how they feel. I always felt like whatever move they were going to make was going to come in the offseason anyway. I just wanted them to try to pick up a shooter or somebody, during the trade deadline, but that's another disappointment I can talk about another time.
And Matt Thomas was available too.
He's right there. Pick him up. The legend is right there. He's right there. All right. Now he's over in Greece doing his thing. So it's all right. It's all right, man.
Big Dave, let me ask you this. What do the Bulls do this offseason? And I know, we were talking about the offseason when the Bulls still do have a chance to make the playoffs this year. But it's clear that even if the Bulls do make the playoffs, changes still need to be made, because the team isn't going to suddenly turn into a title contender. What are some of the moves you would like to see the Bulls make this offseason?
The same ones I wanted them to make last offseason. The same moves. Get some shooting. Number one, get me some shooting now, today. I don't care who you got to go get, man, but you have to get shooting. You cannot win in this league. I feel crazy for saying this, because it's so, yes, everybody knows it, but you can't win in this league without 3-point shooting. Like, it's impossible. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care how good your defense is. The Bulls are proving that. Their defense is really good, especially since January 1st. They've been awesome. They've been amazing. Look at their rating. It's incredible. But they can't score. Like, it doesn't matter if you can't put the ball into the bucket. Teams are still beating you because you can't put the ball in the bucket. It's that simple. One heater and you're gone and you lose. And that's why you're seeing them lose these games. Like the Indiana game is a great example. You know what I mean? They scored, 122?
Mm-hmm.
you know, but you still lost on the three
Yeah.
because you could and they
Shot
couldn't hit
shot
a shot.
60% from the field and you still lost
Come
the game.
on. You still lost. You
Yeah.
still lost. Because go look at that 3-point attempts they were taking. The
Yeah.
percentage was good, but they weren't taking any. You know, you have to take them because that depletes, you know, the opposing team. They have to call timeouts. They got to regroup. They got to reset. They got to get out on shooters now. Man, you have to take those shots, man. Like, I don't care if you go 8 for 40. I need 40. It's got to go up. So yeah, that's one. Get some shooting. Two, I want more defense. You have to get your defense more. Because and again, credit to Billy Donovan for getting this team to where they are defensively, but they are small.
Yeah.
You know, you need the size, man. It's important. The reason they even had that advantage against Denver was because when Jokic was in there against Vooch, he was having a time. He was having a good time, actually. But when he brought Drummond in there, it's a little more beef. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That I got to contend with to deal with. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to re-sign Drummond. You know, he's got the option to leave if he wants to. I don't know if you want to bring him back, but regardless, if you got to get that size. I also think maybe Justin Lewis, you know what I'm saying? Maybe they're looking at him saying he'll be ready to go.
Right.
That was great news I heard about him, you know, being signed to that 2-way contract because I was a big Justin Lewis fan
Yeah.
in summer league. I just like how he plays. I like his IQ. So he can definitely add to that. But those are the things you have to get. And number three, you've got to shore up your point guard position. You've got to
Yeah.
figure it out. You've got to figure it out. We see Io and we see Coby, and we had this debate where they both, for me, are more comfortable on the bench. You
Yeah.
know, that's where they're more comfortable at. I need a starting point guard because this team cannot work or cannot run without it. I don't know how much more proof you need to see. They cannot work or run without it. You brought in Patrick Beverly, you know what I'm saying, who is not a world beater at all when
Yeah.
it comes to scoring, when it comes to whatever. You know, I wanted him for the energy, for the toughness, all that stuff. That's fine. But his IQ is very, very solid, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you brought him in just to shore up that position. And look what the response has been because of that and how
Right.
your team has played. Just the bottom of the barrel point guard is
Yeah.
what you brought. I just need a point guard so bad. So those things you have to go get. And you have to make those decisions about who you want to keep on this team to get those things. But
Yeah.
those are the things you're definitely going to need.
Do you think they'll look to re-sign Patrick Beverly if he, somehow gets the group to the play-in, maybe even to the playoffs? Because the thing is, for me, I agree with you 100%. All of the offseason moves that need to be made from a point guard perspective, especially now, given what we know about Lonzo Ball, and you have to figure something out. You're kind of going into another season where you have to assume Lonzo might not play. Who, right? Who are going to be the point guards that can fill that role that are, whether free agents or via trade? That's kind of the biggest thing for me is like, I'm not really sure who they could actually bring in, but I don't know.
Exactly.
Maybe you have someone in mind.
No, like that's the thing. Again, that's stuff I'll look into in the off season. And I don't envy, you know what I'm saying, their job and what they have to do.
Yeah.
But this is what they have to do. Tough decisions are gonna have to be made, man. You're gonna have to give up something to get something
Right.
because you're in a tough position because of Lonzo. But you know what your team needs, man, and you got to go do it.
Yeah. Big Zabe, I'll get you out of here on this one. 16 games left in the season. As right now, Bulls they're still, I believe, 11th in the East. They're one game back of the Wizards for 10th, game and a half back. The Raptors for 9th. Even the Hawks, they're not out of reach, only 3 games behind them.
Right.
Predictions on how you see the Bulls closing out the season, and do they in fact make the playoffs?
They're in my head. They're going to the play-in. I feel like that's going to happen. I'm banking that just based on Patrick Beverly's track record of never missing the playoff. He didn't come here to lose and not go to something, you know what I mean, in the postseason. So I think that will occur. Beyond that, I have no idea because I don't know what team is going to show up once they get there. I think you'll have a better understanding of how they'll be playing in that play-in and what kind of team will show up over these next 16 games.
Yeah.
More so than what you saw in the season because the season was just full of inconsistencies.
Right.
You saw how they played super well against, those, big teams, but we're super trash against those teams like the Rockets. And then they got to a point where they were just trash against everyone.
Right.
So now you're at a point where I see you playing against these trash teams. You still lost to Indiana, you still took that L, but you look I'm looking at Zach and how he looked in that game, and all those things. But then in Denver, who nobody in the world had you doing, like you completely just ran them off the floor at their
Yeah.
house, and
Yeah.
dominated them. So what again, I think you'll find out what the consistency is of this team in the next 16 games. Are they just going to continue on that path of that? Like, I don't know. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. We don't
Right.
know. You'll find out real easy and real quick. But me personally, I think they're going to the play in, and beyond that, man, it's up in the air, man.
Well, I want to see another emotional outburst from Patrick Beverly in the Bulls uniform, right? At the United
Yes.
Center. That's what I want to see.
Wouldn't that
Uh,
be great? Oh
yeah.
man.
I mean, I agree with you because I mean the thing is, part of me always wants to say, especially after the game against Denver, hey, maybe this is the game. This is the game that is the turning point, gives them the confidence that yes, we're gonna, stay focused and play like the way we did against Denver, from here on out. But I also thought that, in that run they had where they beat the Bucks and the Celtics back-to-back games
Yes.
and plenty of other games
Yes.
where they've done well against good teams, and then they follow it up, like you mentioned, just not playing well, blowing big leads, really big leads. Like
Yes.
almost lost that game to the Pistons after that big lead. Like that was just anyway. So yeah, I agree with you. It's hard to really make of what this team is and how they're going to finish out the season. That's why it's like when I ask people, it's like, okay, what do you think is going to happen for the rest of the year? And then they turn the question around back on me, and you're like, actually, you're right. I don't really know. I don't really know where to kind of go from here. But I hope that they can make the play in. I hope that as a result, they get into the playoffs. I know that a lot of people are all about at this point just tank, try to keep that top 4 pick. I get that. I get trying to salvage that, but at the same time it's like I want to see my team win, you know what I mean? Like it's like I've always wanted to see my team win, and that's obviously still a gamble. Like they could lose a bunch of games and then they still don't get the pick, and then it's even
Yeah.
more frustrating. Right? So
Exactly.
yeah.
That's my whole point right there.
Yeah.
I'm not with the tank. I want to play in. Give me all of that. It's rare that I've seen teams lose and then shake that off and become incredible. It's
Right.
happened, sure,
Yeah.
but it's rare. It's more rare that you continue without those losing ways because just like winning, losing is contagious.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's more of a hope and wish strategy
Yeah.
for a lottery. Like no, well, we got to tank, sis. We got to go for the top 4 pick. That is not a guarantee
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
At all. You don't control that by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
Banking on that is like buying a lottery ticket and then quitting your job. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like that's
Yeah.
what that is. So that's no strategy, bro. Well, I bought the lottery ticket. I might win. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? No, that is not
Yeah.
how that works. So
Yeah.
go get that. Go get the winning done. That helps your young guys that are still there as well because they get more experience. And then you can deal with everything in the off season because you can still get yourself back in the draft just depending if you want it that bad enough.
Right.
If you want it bad enough, you can make any of this happen. Seriously.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, go win, bro. Go
Yeah.
win.
I mean, yeah, you're right. There's something to be said also about closing out the season on a high note. Even if it is, you barely scrape your way into the playoffs,
Sure.
say you're the 8 seed and you lose to the 1 seed, but maybe, you kind of cause problems for let's say it's the Bucks, right? It's like you cause some problems, you win a couple games. There's that sense going into the offseason, hey, we were able to actually change things, right? We were actually able to turn things around. Let's carry that momentum into the following season, as opposed to just, all right, we're just going to call it quits and lose.
Right.
And oh, great, we didn't get our draft pick either. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's my sentiment anyway. But
Yeah.
Big Dave, as always, my man, I really appreciate you making the time coming on the channel. Love the work you guys are doing over at CHGO. The
Yes, sir.
community you've been able to build is just fantastic. Keep up the great work over there, and best of luck for the rest of the season and going into the off season as well.
Man, I really appreciate that, man. Anytime you need me, phone call, text away, DM away, just hit me up, man. And
For
always
sure.
admire the work that you do, sir. Like for real,
Appreciate it,
that can't
man.
be stated enough, bro. Like you're incredible. Straight up.
Thanks, man. No, I appreciate it. All right, you take care, buddy.
All right, peace.